Welcome everybody to today's interview. My name is Katrin Hamacher. I'm a psychologist and psychotherapist in training, specializing in systemic family therapy. And I'm hosting this project, which is called Health Exchange. And it's about exchanging perspectives about mental health and related topics with other people in order to empower diversity in the education and practice of psychotherapy and psychology in general. So today I have this wonderful guest next to me called Hazel Muriro. I'm very grateful that you are here tonight. Hazel, thank you very, very much for participating in this project. So before I start with my questions that I have for you, I just want to let you know, thank you first of all for joining us. If you have any questions during this interview, please feel free to send the questions in the chat and I will read them out to Hazel after our questions or during the interview, depending on how it fits in the topics. But they were definitely going to be answered, and we are already grateful for that, and we are already grateful for your participation. So afterwards this video gonna be downloaded and uploaded on my YouTube channel, which is also linked in my bio. It's also called Health Exchange. So I would say let's start, because I'm really excited to get to know how someone can become a psychologist in Uganda. So please, can you give us some information about yourself and also your study status, and also what encouraged you to specialize in mental health?
Good evening everyone. I hope you're all well or coping well. So my name is Hazel Muriro. I am a clinical psychologist in training. So to be a psychologist in Uganda, firstly I think you have to do your bachelor's in psychology. So Makerere University, which is the oldest university in Uganda, and it's a public university, which is the school I go to, it has a bachelor's program. I know that I think Gulu University in Lira, there is also a bachelor's in, I think it's community psychology and psychotherapy. It's a bachelor's in science, and then afterwards you go to get your master's in clinical psychology or counseling psychology or educational psychology or organizational psychology, depending on what you're interested in. Some people have a background in social work, so they did social sciences, a bachelor's in social sciences or a bachelor's in social work and social administration, and then they have their master's in psychology.
Okay, thank you very much. So what motivated you to choose the topic of today, and what encouraged you to start studying psychology here in Uganda?
I think ever since I was young, like all my life, I've always been like peculiar and curious. I was not necessarily a very normal child, and the things that interested me aren't necessarily the same things that interested other children. I always got into trouble at school because I was always asking, I was always talking. So naturally I just found myself heading into that direction. From like the movies I used to watch, at first I thought you have to be like a psychiatrist, but I didn't want to do medicine. And like what interested me about human behavior or life wasn't giving people medication to act a certain way. It was more of the behavioral change aspect, if that makes sense. But of course by then I didn't properly understand. I just knew like psychiatry is not what I'm looking for, but if that's what I have to do, I'll do it. So when I was about to finish high school, we have A-level here. My friend who had finished came to visit me at school, and she told me that there was a psychology program. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. So I applied, and then I did my bachelor's. The bachelor's is a bachelor's in arts, and it's a bit more broad, you know, like, and at first I felt like it wasn't for me, like I wasn't understanding, like when do we get to the actual psychology? I didn't realize that these are like, you know, foundational, you know, you're starting with the foundation, you build up to it. I just thought that we are here for psychologists to teach us, you know, all the psychology, you know, tell us why are there serial killers and stuff like that. But eventually I got the hang of things, and I realized, okay, this is where I want to be, this is what I want. And placement, going for placement in year 2 really, really helped me, because then I knew 100%, okay, this is what I want to do in my life.
All right, so did I get you right? To become a psychologist in Uganda, you do bachelor, and then you have to do masters, or is it also fine to stop at a bachelor's level, or yeah?
I think you can stop at a bachelor's level. It's just that you don't have enough skills, enough competences, like you don't have quite enough. Of course, in our field, you can never have enough. I mean, people go up to PhD level and like that, but the bachelor's level, it leaves you thirsty for more knowledge. Because when I got into the field, or when I started to help, I would realize that I was limited. There's so many tools and so many things I didn't know, or I wasn't fully aware about. So I decided to go back to school. So most of us go back to school because, you know, and also in our country, like the ratio between mental health practitioners and people who need help is like, it's so wide that if you stop at bachelor's level, you're doing people a disservice. You're doing Ugandans a disservice, because you're not being the best therapist you can be, and yet the people who need help are much more than you.
But the bachelor already qualifies you as a therapist, or what are you allowed to practice with each of those degrees?
So for the bachelor's, in my opinion, you are not allowed. So we don't have a proper governing body yet that can license people, like I think in Germany and other countries. But for bachelor's level, I think the best, you can do other work that psychologists do, you just can't do psychotherapy. You can't do it well. You don't have enough tools and skills yet. Some people have the luck of getting jobs or working in places where they can be equipped with those skills. So right out of school, they find themselves in a place which has more experienced psychologists, clinical psychologists, counseling psychologists, etc. And then because they're being supervised, they learn. They just don't maybe have credentials, but they learn. So it's not that people who have the bachelor's aren't any good. It's just like to be on the safe side, you know, to be ethical, to do no harm. It makes sense for you to go back to school. But I do know there are Ugandans who have picked up these skills and have these competences because of where they work particularly.
All right. And what are the requirements to become a psychotherapist? Or would you even call it psychotherapist, or do you call it differently?
Well, it is a psychotherapist. Most people, once they've done their masters, they become psychotherapists. The training that we undergo to attain this masters, you become a psychotherapist. I think, of course, we just continue to work under supervision. Yeah. But yeah, mostly it's the master's degree that can qualify you. There is a Uganda Counseling Association, but most of them, I think, are counseling psychologists who are there. But of course, clinical psychologists can also apply and then be licensed by the UCA to practice.
Okay. Thank you. So you told us already a bit about your university. Are there any other opportunities where you can study psychology, or where you can qualify as a psychotherapist, even if you might not study psychology, is there the opportunity to do so here?
Like I said, in Lira, a university does offer the bachelor's degree, and some psychologists have a bachelor's in social sciences or social work. But for the master's, I know that for counseling psychology, a few private institutions offer it. And then for the clinical psychology specifically, which is what I'm doing, it's offered in Makerere University and Chisubi. Chisubi University, which is a private university. There are institutions and like postgraduate degrees about counseling, like, you know, just counseling and basic counseling skills and stuff like that. However, our country, most of that, the history is like, it's very religious based, if I should say. Well, of course, I'm assuming those things have changed, like they are changing, but then so many of these courses on counseling, they are offered by faith-based organizations or institutions. So they wouldn't be psychotherapists. I think they'll just be counselors. Yeah, but the only way I know for you to qualify as a psychotherapist is those two programs. Yeah.
May you quickly explain to us what you understand as the difference between a psychotherapist and a psychological counselor here?
Okay. In my opinion, I don't think there's a difference, because in my program we share even a lot of the same classes. We're taught the same skills, competencies. We're exposed to more or less the same thing. I think the only difference I can say, like psychotherapists, we focus on the biopsychosocial aspect of things, whereas the counselors usually focus on, you know, the psychosocial bit or the social aspect of things. They may not label someone or give someone a diagnosis of having a specific mental disorder. And then, like I've said, in our history, counseling has been linked to like religion and faith. So so many people fear that word counseling or counselor, because they assume this is like a religious person who's going to tell me that I did this wrong and the Bible says this and this and this and the other. So maybe that's one thing that, like, that's the distinction people put. But in my opinion, we have a lot of the same skills, really. Yeah, counselors and psychologists, if they do the masters in counseling psychology, we do more or less the same work when it comes to talk therapy.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So during your studies, which theories and approaches were conveyed? And are there also Afro-centered psychotherapeutic approaches that you learn?
Okay, that's actually a great question. So the approaches and the theories that we study, so maybe one thing I should have said from the start is we study a lot through the American lens of things. I don't know what informed that decision, but I would like to think it's because, well, America is diverse, so it's like a melting pot of people. So the information they have makes sense for our context. I mean, they're Ugandan Americans, they're Kenyan Americans, they're Caribbean Americans, they are Mexicans and Caucasian. Like, there are all kinds of people in the US, so it makes sense. So we learn Gestalt, cognitive behavior therapy, person-centered, feminist, acceptance and commitment therapy. What else? I think all the main approaches. I wouldn't say psychodynamic. In terms of an Afrocentric kind of approach or a Ugandan approach, we've not studied that, and I think we apply our Ugandanness in our therapy, if that makes sense. That if I'm seeing someone and I'm applying cognitive behavior therapy. I am seeing them as a Ugandan therapist in the Ugandan context, putting in mind that the patient is a Ugandan. So as much as we are learning, what the American Psychology Association, wants us to learn and applies and approves, etc. Like, I know in my mind, and when they are teaching us as Ugandans, to treat Ugandans, or at least to treat other African people or people of African descent. If we are to Ugandanize or Africanize some of these approaches, or to come up with our own, it's going to take a lot of work, a lot of money, and we have to prove that it's evidence-based. It's just so much. Like, I feel like it would be so much work. I hope that I get to see that in my lifetime. I'm a strong believer that somehow in our approach, in our way that we help Ugandans, we should incorporate the things they believe in. For example, most Ugandans will see a traditional healer before they see a therapist, before they even go to a doctor or hospital. So if we can find a way of meshing that, that would be amazing. But honestly, I know some people do research in that, but in terms of application, nothing. I don't know much. Yeah.
One question, of course, I'm now interested, is also systemic family therapy part of
Yeah, so actually that's what we're doing. We're doing this semester. We're doing family and group therapy, so all together. And yeah, that's one of the things we cover. However, because this master's, like, it's specialized but not that much, they still have to touch on so many things so people can know where they see themselves and what they want to specialize in. So someone may decide, like, okay, I see myself in systematic family therapy, and then I know their programs, and I know some of our professors recommend people to do their PhDs or doctorates outside Uganda in such programs. Like, I know, for example, in my child-centered play therapy class, there are people who see themselves doing that, like, full-time. Honing in on that. So most likely they would, after the course, they would then practice under supervision and probably apply for another program. So that's usually how it's done here. The master's kind of helps you better understand things and makes you know, okay, this is it, this is what I want to specialize in. And most people go for the PhD, other people just practice under supervision.
Thank you also for giving the insight concerning the Afro-centered approaches. I heard that, or I did a research on the internet, and I discovered a Nigerian professor who is now, or who developed, not now, but he already developed, Afro-centered psychotherapeutic approaches. And I was also surprised because we don't learn it. We didn't learn about it. And but I thought, like, that this also is so important. And so great to have that, because like you also told us, we also learn a lot about psychotherapy through an American lens or European lens.
Yeah, I think also that would be amazing to develop an approach or a theory through the more African lens or the more Ugandan lens. But we also have to remember, I think one of the reasons why that has been difficult is, like, Africans are not a monolith. We are so many, and we're so diverse. Like, I think in Uganda we are over 50 tribes and cultures. So, like, if I were to develop that, I'm going to look at it through the lens of my tribe, my dialect, which is Chiga. And, like, then I'm leaving out people from the east and the north. So, like, I think those are the things people kind of put into consideration. That's why maybe they they choose to use the theories that are already there, but then they think about them through the Ugandan experience or context. They don't just take them as is, that, you know, do this, or, you know, apply this, or say this to the patient, and you're not thinking critically how a Ugandan will perceive some of these things you're saying or doing in the session. So I don't know actually, but I think that would be amazing. I would love to see more of that. Yeah, in my opinion. And I think that's why so many, at least Ugandan therapists I know, that's why they love CBT, I think. Yeah.
Now we are very grateful and happy that we have someone who's also looking from a Ugandan lens, right?
Yeah.
You said that. And my interest would be to know, what do you think might be study results that are also maybe conveyed in your lectures or also in your research projects that you have as students concerning mental health topics here in Uganda that you think are important for other people to know when we deal with people maybe that have Ugandan descent or...
Okay. I think one thing that's important for people to know is like mental health problems are there. They're not like I feel like we in our society people act like they're not there, or people associate them with like spiritual problems, you know, that, you know, maybe the ancestors are angry with him, or, you know, or it's karma, you must have done something wrong, and now, you know, God is punishing you or something like that. So I think what people need to know is like mental health problems, they exist, and, you know, they can be treated, and people who have them can be helped. That's something that we talk a lot about in our classes, and I think that's something many people also think about when they're doing their research for their master's program. They look at that a lot. They know it's important for us to know that many people don't think these are real problems. They just think it's a spiritual issue that can be dealt with through prayer, and then, you know, it'll go away.
Okay. Thank you. I was now asking myself, how long does it actually take to study psychology here? Like all those degrees that you mentioned.
The bachelor's degree is 3 years, I think. 4 years, because the academic year starts towards the end of the year. So you may finish in May, but then you actually graduate the next year in January. So it's 3 years technically, and then the master's is 2 years. But that depends on your research, you know, the research that you're doing. Sometimes people do research for like a much longer time, like 3 or 4 years, depending on what they're trying to achieve, you know, and also depending, you know, because there's a process for your research to be approved. So you may finish with classes and everything and you pass, but the research is still taking a while. Like we're supposed to be approved, your proposal should be approved at department level, at school level, and then they approve you to collect data, and then you begin to write your dissertation, which you then defend, you know, and then when you defend it, you are then given corrections, and then an external examiner and 2 internal examiners then grade it. So like all those steps, sometimes people end up having to do the masters for 3 or 4 years, but it's not because they didn't do their schoolwork or they didn't do well. It's just sometimes the research takes a while, because life still goes on. Like people, you know, get married, have babies, some people get jobs, so they can't, you know, like be on their research like this, on top of it, like this, and you're not going to rush the process. You're not going to tell the people for the panel to say, come and approve me because I'm having a baby tomorrow. You have to wait.
All right.
Yeah.
And what would you say, how would you rate the amount of people who are studying psychology here?
You mean like the number of people?
Yes, please.
I still think they're very few. I think we're an estimated 45 million now in the country. But honestly, in my life, I don't think I even know. Like in my class, there's 30 of us. And that's the biggest class ever for that master's program ever. That's like the biggest class that we've ever had for clinical psychology. Like if I'm to try and name the psychologists I know 50. That is me trying. Like I'll have to think and think and think. So we are very, very few compared to the people, compared to the population. And of course not all 45 million people are sick, but you know, at least half of them may need help or support. So I don't think we're nearly enough. Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for the insights concerning the educational career to become a psychologist here in Uganda. Besides your engagement in that, you're also the founder of Mindful Conversation Uganda.
Yeah.
Can you please tell us something about this organization that was founded by you and also what encouraged you to found it?
Okay. So firstly, I want to say that Mindful Conversations is my fetus. It's not even my baby, it's my fetus. It's still growing. I don't think of it as an organization. I would really like it to become a clinic. I would love for it to grow into a kind of innovation hub, if you will, for psychologists in Uganda and even the continent. Because so many of us, it's only this year, I think, that the government of Uganda has made it a requirement for psychologists to be working at the hospitals. So from a regional referral level to a national referral hospital level. Prior to that, you either have to do your own practice and then find people, or you have to work at a national referral hospital, of which there's only 5 in the whole country, or organizations, non-profit organizations kind of had to, you have to find a way of getting a job. And sometimes you'll end up doing work that you're not supposed to be doing, but because no one really knows what a clinical psychologist is supposed to do, then, you know, they just want to keep you busy, so they're not paying you for nothing. That being said, I really want Mindful Conversations to bridge the gap between mental health practitioners and everyday people. And one way we can do that is if it's a common hub and a common ground for practitioners to be or to come to, because we all can't afford to pay rent for a clinic. You know, not everyone can afford to start a practice. So if you have a place that you can see your patients and somewhere that patients trust that, okay, they vetted this person is good, if anything happens, I have somewhere I can go to. That is what I see for Mindful Conversations. Yeah.
All right. So are there already services provided through Mindful Conversation?
Yeah. So for now, we offer a free initial session just to kind of assess where someone is and to help pair them with a vetted mental health professional, because so many people don't know who they need to see or what they want. Some people have maybe seen a psychiatrist and they're on medication, but they need someone to talk to. I don't think, as far as I know, that any of our psychiatrists in Uganda are trained in talk therapy. So we kind of help with that process. You know, we have that session, we talk through it. People sometimes are very intentional that, you know, maybe I want a female therapist, or can I have someone who is willing to see me online, or this is the price range I'm looking at because I need a weekly session based on this and this issue. Yeah, so we help people through that process and we make sure that they get started well on their healing journey. Yeah. The other thing is we are the one of the implementing partners for the Mental Health Run project. So on Suicide Prevention Day, which is 10th September, we have a mental health run to kind of crowdsource funds, you know, to help people who can't afford therapy, or just to even have a little spare money for people who reach out to us later on that they need support. In the future, we want the project to have wellness talks, yoga retreats, and like wellness activities, all of them leading up to Suicide Prevention Day. But you know, we're going we're just taking things one thing at a time. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves, yeah, because we're just three young women. The little bit we can manage to do, we do. Yeah.
Wow. So how can local people, and to what extent can local people get access to your services or in touch with you for your services?
Yeah. So we have a WhatsApp number. It's on MTN. It's +256 777 832731. We have Instagram and Twitter. We don't have a website yet, but most people call the number, or they WhatsApp the number if they need help, or they just inbox you in Twitter and Instagram. I found those are the platforms that we can manage at the time, and we reach enough people. But slowly we want to have a website. I would like to have as much social media as possible, Facebook, LinkedIn, just so that people can get help from wherever they are usually kind of hanging out from. The other thing is, hopefully in the future we will have a mental health directory. Yeah, we would like to have that, where even if someone can't reach out to us, they can reach out to a professional. It has like detailed information of the different professionals and the services they offer and stuff like that.
For those who might want to get in contact with Hazel and or her other colleagues, I will copy the number afterwards in the description, so you can get in touch, and also the social media pages. I will link them.
Yeah.
Wow, what an engagement! So inspirational. Like, thank you so much for so much inspiration and also so much engagement.
Yeah.
And advocacy work.
True.
For mental health. Great. Yeah. Respect. So, I would also be interested to what extent and how can international people get in touch with you or collaborate with you or support you. Yes.
Okay, that's nice. I would encourage people as well who are not from here to also kind of, message us on, WhatsApp. I don't know, but WhatsApp is a big platform here. People can easily see a WhatsApp status compared to a newsletter or something else. Also our Twitter, our Instagram, we also have an email, mindfulconversationsug@gmail.com. Yeah. And I think for now people can support us by sharing our content. In the future, I am considering having a way for people, well-wishers, to support us through perhaps offering trainings if they can, because sometimes someone has information that could be useful. If people can offer us support through, exchange programs, stuff like that. We're also open to donations, yeah. I just have to, in my mind, I would like to have a way that that donation makes sense, that someone donated this much and this is what it did, so they know my money did this. My money paid for 2 sessions for 2 girls, in my mind. So maybe for donations, usually I kind of speak with the person. If they say, I'd like to make a contribution, usually I engage them and I tell them that, on our wait list right now we have 3 young women. One can only afford 50%, this person can't afford this much, stuff like that. So then they say, okay, I would like to take on the person who can only afford half the fee. I would like to cover the other half for as long as she needs. So usually I just engage the individual so they know what their contribution is doing, And I also would like that if they're helping someone in particular, I can then also say to the client or the patient and say, thank you very much for being patient thus far. we have someone who would like to help cover the fee. If you would like to meet them, if you'd like to know who they are, that's well and good. If you wouldn't like to, you just, right now you're focusing on healing, then that's also okay.
Talking about this financial aspect, this question came up to my mind. Is there therapy covered by insurances or something? Or is everything private?
As far as I know, I don't know any therapist who takes insurance. It will be hard, honestly, from my opinion and from what I've seen so far in the few years that I've been doing my work, it will be hard for you to get paid by the insurance companies here.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're going to tell them I've seen this person for 8 sessions, this and this. I'm recommending maybe 5 more sessions, something like that. I'm really thinking how you're going to get these people to pay you. From what I've seen, it's like insurance companies want to know that a consultation is 30,000 shillings. And this medication, you were prescribed this medication for 5 days, 2 tablets 3 times a day, and came to this total. Whereas for therapy, I think in their minds, they don't know how to understand this thing, okay, you saw them for a whole hour 8 times. You expect me to give you 100,000 per time you saw them? You expect me to give you 200,000? So I honestly don't know any therapist who takes insurance. I think it would be very difficult for you to get paid. I know some companies and organizations offer, they have an arrangement with a psychology firm or a psychologist or a practice, and then they say to them, okay, we have 100 employees. Whenever they need support, they'll be coming to you. I need you to bill me in this way, and they have an MOU and an understanding, and then they go from there. Right. Yeah.
Thank you very much for this information, Hazel. So now I would like to know, why do you think it's important to exchange perspectives about mental health and related topics?
I think it's important for us to exchange perspectives because as mental health practitioners, as people who are helpers, we can't get too comfortable with only what we know. We need to know what other people know in other corners of the world, in other corners of Uganda, because then we can be the best helper we can be. We're not just closed off that, no, I was taught psychoanalysis by this person and this is how you're supposed to do this thing and nobody else talked to me. I don't think you cannot be the best helper if you approach therapy through that point of view. So it's good for us to exchange perspectives. It's good for us to learn from other people. And it also inspires you. The work that we do is heavy, Catherine. Sometimes it gets to you. But once in a while, you see people exchanging perspectives and then you feel alive again. You're like, oh, I can't wait to go to work on Monday. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So now I would like to ask you the question. Suppose a miracle happens overnight and one thing concerning mental health care changed for the better. How would you recognize the next day that this miracle happened?
For me, I think it would start on my way to wherever I was going, whether school or work, if on my way there were less sick people roaming the street, I would know the miracle happened. Yeah, because that's, I don't know if you've noticed in Kampala, that's a bit common. Sick people wandering the street. Yeah.
There are some, so people that I assume to to fulfill criteria of so-called mental health disorder.
Yeah. So if on my way to wherever I was going, I didn't see any for like a good month, I would know the miracle happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Now coming to my last question. What else would you like to share with us tonight, and what would you like to be the take-home message maybe?
I just want to encourage mental health practitioners to, do your best, look after yourself, and give it your all on the days when you can. For people who struggle with mental health problems, I just want to encourage you to try as much as you can to go for your sessions. If you are on medication, to go for medication. If you're having a hard time with whatever, to ask for help. And for everybody else, just be kind to other people. Look out for your friends, for your family, for your neighbors, your co-workers. Just keep an eye on them and just be a caring person. And yeah, I'm wishing you and your loved ones good health.
Thank you so much, Hazel. Please, if you have any questions to Hazel Muriro, feel free to write them in the chat. I already want to use the time while maybe people outside are thinking about their questions they may have. I would really like to thank you for giving us so much insights about the educational career of a psychologist here in Uganda, and also about, like, let me see, organizational aspects like the insurance, and also presenting your you did say organization.
My future clinic.
Your future clinic. Sorry, yeah. Let us use these words. Of course, your future clinic, for which I personally wish you all the best.
Yes.
And,
she's coming to work there.
All right. Now I know where I work in the future.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, because it's really, I really appreciate your time. And also, as I said before, I'm very, very inspired by you. This is why I'm very, very happy you came tonight to share also your perspective with other people. Yeah, but don't let me talk too much. There is a question, and the question is, when did you recognize you want to go this path? Thank you for this question.
Yeah, thank you for this question. Like I said before, as young as I can remember, I just knew that I was very interested in human behavior and why people did what they did. I was always curious, and the very first time I saw a show where this person, I don't remember, but I know someone was not feeling well, and they went to a place and they saw someone by then I didn't know it was a therapy room, but in this movie, in this American movie, this person walked into the room and, lay on a couch, and then they talked to this person, and then when they left the room they felt well. So that's the day, like in my childhood brain, I remember that day clearly. I even asked my mom, I'm like, Mommy, why is this person going to see that person? Like, I even asked them, doesn't this person have like a mom or a grandma or a sister to talk to? And my mom explained to me, like, no, sometimes someone needs someone who is not their family member to talk to, and it's not just talking, it's science. So then she just confused me, but I was so interested, so I was always curious, and every time I had access to a phone I was always googling. But by then I only knew mostly about psychiatry. But as I grew older, I then got to know about psychology, and I fell more in love with it, and
wow. So certain key moments that you don't forget.
I've been looking for that movie up to now. I just know how to describe that scene. That this person walked into the therapy room, and it was an American movie. I remember the accents. And like this person lay on the couch, and after that the character stopped being so sad. They were still sad, but just not as sad. And that moment stuck with me in my head. I'm like, but what did they talk about,
So, if anyone has a clue what the title of this movie is, feel free to share with us. There are more questions. Thank you so much. The next question is the question is, how has being a mental health worker or advocate been like?
So, like most things, there's a good side and a not so good side. So the not so good side is people don't understand what you're doing, and then also people feel like you're wasting time. Like, why don't you study and be a real doctor? You know, because in people's minds they feel like mental health problems can't be fixed. People have I've experienced people who feel like, you're wasting time, you should just do this with your life instead, and kind of like weird negative commentary like that. But I've also experienced people who they've appreciated the work that I've done. They've been so grateful, they've sent me gifts, and they're like, don't give up on the work that you're doing, which hasn't always been easy, because being a psychologist in Uganda, that's like being poor forever. That's signing up for poverty. It will be very difficult for you to earn like a decent living. Like, it's possible, but it's not easy. Yeah, if you're to practice full-time as a therapist. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Someone is writing, I think I heard you saying that people should come in when they do see symptoms of a mental issue. How do we do this when mental health disorders differ from person to person?
Okay. Thank you for this question. Yes, mental health problems or signs of unwellness, they look different for everyone. I think I would say one of the ways that even for our physical well-being, that we've been able to know that we're not feeling well is by trying to know who we are. In Uganda here, malaria used to be a very common sickness, and people knew what that felt like. Even before they're really sick, someone would just tell, they'll be like, I would tell, like, Catherine, check my temperature, I think I have malaria. That's because Ugandans had gotten good at getting to know their bodies. So I also like to encourage people to try and get to know their minds, to try and get to know themselves spiritually, emotionally, because that will help you know that, okay, I don't think I'm fine, I don't think I'm doing well. Also, the people around us, I really want to encourage us to look out for people around us, for our family, our friends, our colleagues, the people we follow online. I mean, we're always on our phones, and sometimes there's someone who we always see posting, funny things, and they're active, and then once in a while they'll disappear for a few days. So let's check in on people, because sometimes we may not know we're sick, but the people around us may see the difference. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for the interaction and also your questions. Very, very precious. And let me just check if we skipped the question. I hope we did not. All right. I don't see any other question for now. I would really like to thank you for your time. After studying, you came straight from uni, yeah?
Yes.
Wow.
I came straight from school. Guys, Catherine has learned Ugandan behaviors. I came before her.
Now
I'm exposing Catherine.
All right, I think we should finish at that point. No, I'm joking.
I'm seeing last question.
Okay, there's a last question. Of course, we are here. We are here, and we are very grateful for the questions, and we are very grateful for your patience as well.
Yes, thank you very much for spending the evening with us.
Yeah, and the attention. that you give to us, and the time. So many things to be grateful for.
Yep.
All right, so I have to say there's really a lot of input that we had today.
Yeah.
And I guess there will be also a question coming up later, maybe.
Yeah.
Please feel free, if this is also the case for you, reach out to us, to Hazel, to me. No problem. We are very welcoming, and we are very grateful to be in touch with you, and to also hear more questions, or even if you have ideas of how to connect and improve things, please feel free to give us your feedback.
Yeah.
Yes.
And any questions.
And any questions that you have. Yes.
Yeah.
And if some things were too fast for you, don't worry, I will upload this video on the YouTube channel.
Yeah. Go subscribe and like Catherine's YouTube.
Thank you, Hazel, for promoting and encouraging me also, and motivating me in my project. Thank you very much. Feel free to like, follow, subscribe, watch, enjoy, share, whatever comes to your minds. We are happy about that. We are happy about the support. We are happy about your perspectives as well. And as Hazel said, I think this is one key thing that I really also just felt like this is also what I believe in, and you somehow I felt like you confirmed it, is the more we exchange perspective, the better we can close gaps and build bridges. Yeah. All right, the last question was coming. How do you help those far gone in their mental health issues in Uganda? I mean, in question marks, so-called mad people and chronic alcoholics.
Okay. Wow, that's an intense question. Thank you for that question. So by far gone, I think they mean people whose mental health condition has gone untreated for much longer, you know. Those are, you know, there are quite many in Uganda, like we talked about earlier. So a good number of those people never receive treatment throughout their life. They continue to live in the community. Uganda is still very communal. I love that about our country. They never go hungry. If they need support, people in the community always kind of look out for them, and that's why they live longer and they stay, you know, in the same community for years to come. Those who do receive help and support, they are taken to, most of them will be taken to the National Referral Hospital. Of the 5, only 1 caters to mental health. That is Butabika. In other districts away from Kampala, they do take them to the Regional Referral Hospital or whatever big hospital is there. But sometimes, I dare say most times, there is no psychiatrist or psychologist there to provide help. So if that person has a support system or people who care for them, they will be brought to Butabika in Kampala. And upon admission, you know, some of them are brought with a loved one who can provide adequate history. And when there's adequate history, when there's all that information, then it's much easier for the practitioners in that hospital to come up with a treatment plan for them, both from the medication point of view and also from the psychology kind of behavioral approach of things. Yeah, so unfortunately, also I think our mental health budget is about 1.9, is it? And only 1% of that goes to mental health. So there's not a lot of resources to help them, but there are some resources. In terms of chronic alcoholics, there has been an increase in rehabilitation centers in the country. There's been a serious increase. Most of them are private. I think the only public one is, again, the one at Butabika, the alcohol and drug unit in Butabika, of which unfortunately it's full a good amount of the year. But slowly by slowly, like I said, Uganda is growing, it's changing, it's developing. There's been some change. And like I said also earlier, this year, from the regional referral level, I think there are about 17 regional referral hospitals in the country. Starting this year, clinical psychologists have to be there. So that's already a step in the right direction. If there are clinical psychologists in the different regional referral hospitals across the country, that's already at least help. Now people don't feel like it's hopeless. What's the point of taking them to the hospital? And there are very many researchers, both the old school and the younger psychologists, who are seeing the importance of engaging the cultural leaders when it comes to mental health. I know one of my professors, Professor Chikoma, is looking at how we can work alongside them. Because when someone has a mental health problem here, before they bring them to any hospital, they're going to take them to see a traditional healer. So how can we work alongside these cultural leaders? Because they are part of our society. Shaming them doesn't stop people from going there. People just hide, but they're still going there. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I feel like I went out on a tangent.
You know what I sometimes even think, especially with that, because I also heard, or I hear this expression quite often, not even here, like in general, you know, even in Germany, you know, and I think sometimes I was thinking it can also help in the destigmatization of people with severe symptoms, or who fulfill criteria of severe symptoms, to also work on the way we talk about that, and the language we use, like to say, like, people who maybe consume alcohol chronically. You get what I mean? Instead of chronic alcohol
use,
alcoholics, or or sometimes people would be described as mad people, but maybe people with a certain behavior that they show. You get what I mean? Like, because in the end we are all people, you know, and I think everyone, and especially people that show severe symptoms, from my experience as a psychotherapist in training, they are so, like, they went through so much, and as you said, they didn't get maybe support at an early stage of those things, and it's not just like someone wakes up and behaves in a certain way, right? So so we put on a spot, and also we realized that Instagram has a limit of 1 hour. So thank you so much for your interest. Thank you so much, Hazel.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much. We just actually came up again to say thank you so much for joining this interview today. Thank you, Hazel, for everything you shared with us tonight, for all the interesting questions, the interesting input, the precious idea that are exchanged here. I'm very, very grateful, and I feel very, very blessed, and I'm very happy that our paths crossed. Yes, very, very much. So have a lovely night, and I'm looking forward to see you in our next interview, which is not yet planned, but it will come up because I have some other great colleagues in the pipeline. And don't forget to follow Mindful Uganda. Yes. And I will share everything with you underneath, and all the contact details, all the social media pages. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Wishing you and your loved ones good health.
Yes,
We
please.
should pause and take a screenshot picture of the.
We are still online. All right, but have a lovely evening and take good care of yourself and of your loved ones. Bye.
Bye.